On the late evening of November 21st, 2011, a man named Shippen called the police in the city of Fanjihua, Sichuan province, to report that his wife, Li Ying, had gone missing since noon. Shippen stated that the last time he saw his wife was at 6:30 a.m., when Li Ying left home for work, and it had been 16 hours by the time he reported it to the police. Li Ying, 40, works in the repair and sales of labor protective equipment. She and her spouse lived in a low-income complex on Fanjihua City's east side. As usual, about 6:30 a.m., Li Ying would leave the house with a huge brown bag full of professional tools such as needles, locks, scissors, and other parts, as well as some mended labor protection gear for sale. She also carried a small white speaker that she would use to promote her repair services as she drove through residential complexes, marketplaces, and construction sites where she could easily discover consumers in need of labor protective equipment repair. Shippen returned home that afternoon, but his wife had not returned. Furthermore, he contacted Li Ying's phone several times, but she did not answer. This made Shippen quite concerned, so he decided to contact the police. Shippen continued to try to reach Li Ying that evening, but her phone stayed turned off, which was unusual given that Li Ying had her phone on all the time. Shippen became nervous and worried when he didn't hear anything about his wife, so he immediately contacted relatives and friends to assist in the search for Li Ying. Shippen was concerned because Li Ying frequently carried a significant chunk of money worth 1,000 to 2,000 yuan. She not only mended workers' protective equipment, but she also purchased used gear to repair and sell to other workers in less fortunate financial circumstances. Within the last month, there has been a robbery in this location, with the culprit throwing the victim up onto a nearby mountain. Fearing the worst, Shippen and Li Ying's relatives searched the mountain along the highway, but they found no trace of her. Shippen was unable to locate Li Ying and had to call the police to report the event. The police examined Li Ying's relationships and searched the couple's flat, but they were unable to locate any valuable information due to the lack of security cameras in the vicinity. In order to conduct investigations, the police first sought to identify people who had big problems with Li Ying. They knew Li Ying was highly independent, strong-willed, and unafraid to fight with anyone because she had faced numerous challenges since childhood. During a preliminary investigation, the police discovered that her neighbor, Panyue Wang, frequently disagreed with Li Ying over petty matters because Li Ying's kitchen was outside and Panyue Wang's bedroom was inside. At noon, the Li Ying couple frequently returned home late and ate loudly, disrupting Panyue Wang's afternoon siesta. As a result, she was irritated and had thrown garbage into Li Ying's house numerous times, forcing the two families to clash frequently, including a fight a few days ago. When the police inquired about Li Ying, Panyue Wang's demeanor did not conceal her dislike for the girl. Such an evident attitude would heighten the police's suspicion that she had a motive for the crime, raising the possibility that she was involved in Li Ying's disappearance. The police then investigated Wang's communication history, discovering that she had spoken with her brother about teaching Li Ying a lesson following the earlier conflict. According to their conversation, the police brought Panyue Wang and her brother to the station for questioning. Ms. Wang, on the other hand, quickly clarified that they had only exchanged words and done nothing to Li Ying. Furthermore, a large crowd witnessed her attendance at a city wedding on the day of the incident, providing her with an alibi. Ms. Wang's brother does not have an alibi, but there are texts that mention teaching Li Ying a lesson, which has led the authorities to believe that they may have gone overboard during the physical impact on the victim, resulting in unintended injuries. Under rigorous questioning, Ms. Wang's brother revealed that he had taken his young mistress out that day. He mentioned where they traveled and the name of the hotel they stayed at. The authorities later verified the validity of his story and established that he had an alibi. However, there are a few other significant aspects to the story, such as Li Ying's husband's slightly unusual psychological conduct. He contacted his family members, and together they searched for Li Ying on a suburban mountain just 10 hours after she went missing. The fact that Li Ying worked until noon and then went home made the authorities suspect that her husband's behavior was erratic. They felt he knew more than he had revealed. Despite the tragic occurrence, Shippen's psychological mindset led everyone to strive to ignore it. Although there were thoughts, no one wanted to speak them aloud or admit them, so the police concentrated their inquiry on Li Ying's relationship with her husband. Because Li Ying is extremely frugal, they frequently disagree on financial matters. Even when it is cold, she does not need to bathe in hot water, and she uses very little electricity by merely eating rice and vegetables. Shupan works hard and saves everything he can to send his children to school in the countryside. His wife believes they should educate their two children to make their lives easier than their parents. Shupan found the job to be extremely tedious and draining, and he could not tolerate living in such a harsh environment. Thus, the pair frequently argued. However, Liang argued that, even if they were to go hungry, they must not allow their children to drop out of school. Shupan was upset, but he had no choice. When the police arrived at Shupan's employer, a freelance job in the market area, the workers there stated that he had worked until around 9 o'clock that day and then requested to leave early, and they had no idea where he went between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. The police continued to question Shupan, who stated that he had gone to the garment market to pick out an outfit for Li Ying's birthday. The police then confirmed that the surveillance tape showed Shupan riding his motorcycle towards the garment market, more than 30 kilometers away from Li Ying's usual walking route. Consequently, they removed him from the suspect list. That morning, a guy living on the first floor of the apartment complex stated that at 10 a.m., he noticed Li Ying talking to a strange man outside the Fanghihua market, and that Li Ying shortly thereafter followed that man. Based on this information, the police visited the Fanghihua market area at 10:30 a.m. and searched the video footage. They discovered video evidence of Li Ying walking around the area with a loudspeaker and allegedly hawking labor protection equipment like she always did. This was the final camera to record Li Ying's image, as the police were unable to locate any additional film of her, despite the fact that the next camera was just approximately 400 meters away. The police carefully investigated the final video footage and the others seen with Li Ying, but they found no trace of the unusual man the neighbor had mentioned. This assisted the authorities in determining that Li Ying's disappearance occurred within 400 meters of the two street cameras. Following that, they conducted in-depth interviews with all of the people in the area in hopes of discovering this mysterious individual soon. Because these were all dead ends with no way out, the police conducted interviews at every house near the market. The investigators wanted to know if anyone had spotted the woman holding a loudspeaker advertising the maintenance or sale of protective equipment, recognized the man with her, or noted any other peculiar circumstances. When the detectives reached a long, narrow lane, they encountered a man. When interrogated, he stated that, while he had not met the missing woman and did not know who the man with her was, his neighbors had been acting unusually in recent days. A middle-aged man living in the two-story pink house next door would always keep the gate open, save for roughly 2 days. That is, since his disappearance, he has closed both the gate and the door within the house. The investigators saw that the pink house had a fence wall painted with cartoon representations of Snow White, which contrasted with the notion of a dream house. The owner of this residence is Fuda Gue, a 41-year-old man who recently completed a 20-year prison sentence and has been residing here for approximately a year. Fuda Gue has no work, and his strange behavior over the last 2 days, combined with the fact that he is a convicted criminal, led investigators to think that he was the man who spoke to Li Ying on the morning she went missing. The investigators decided to speak with Fuda Gue in person to confirm some details and see how he reacted when the police probed. When the detectives arrived, Fuda Gue tried to appear calm, but they sensed he was extremely tense. As the detectives approached, his gaze retreated, and he appeared to be trembling. The police investigated the house and discovered a huge number of random objects, including some work protective equipment stashed in a cardboard box. The investigators meticulously organized the workers' protective equipment. During the investigation, they discovered a white handheld loudspeaker that was extremely similar to one the victim frequently used at work. On closer inspection, they discovered some dried blood streaks on the concrete floor that were 1 to 2 centimeters in size. They were also smaller, circular blood spots, measuring 0.4 to 0.5 millimeters. Furthermore, they discovered a considerable amount of blood on the walls, floor, and closet doors. They also found a red wooden trunk beneath the display shelf. The cops discovered many fresh handprints and a few bloodstains when they carried the trunk outdoors. However, when interrogated, Fuda Gue preferred to remain silent. The police soon submitted the dried blood to headquarters for testing. Meanwhile, several residents called the police to report seeing sliced body parts on the rocky coast of the Jinsei River. Later, Li Ying's husband confirmed that the body was his wife's using the results of the DNA tests, giving the authorities even more certainty. The inspection also established that the blood recovered at Fuda Gue's house was that of the victim, Li Ying. Faced with such convincing proof, Fu Degue ultimately acknowledged killing Li Ying. Fu Degue explained that on that day, he had brought Li Ying to his home to inspect and resell several labor protection goods. Fu Degue handed Li Ying some protective garments and gloves. When Li Ying examined the gloves, she found that they were unequal, with some being thicker and others thinner. Li Ying suggested that one could purchase the thicker pairs for 3 renminbi, while the thinner ones would certainly be less expensive. Fu Degue explained that before Li Ying's arrival, he had agreed on a price of 3 renminbi for each pair of gloves, but Li Ying insisted that the price would only be acceptable if all pairs had the same thickness. After a period of fighting about the price, the two became upset. Fu Degue, believing Li Ying was mocking him, became enraged and threatened to attack him. However, she did not show fear, but rather challenged him. Faced with Li Ying's provocation, Fu Degue used an axe to repeatedly pound her head until she became lifeless. He then divided Li Ying's body into pieces and packed them in little bags, which he carried to the rocky coast of the Jinsei River to dispose of, but did not throw them into the river because Fu Degue believed the region was less trafficked. On May 30, 2012, the Intermediate People's Court heard Fu Degue's premeditated murder case. Fu Degue ultimately received a death sentence. Before describing his crimes in court, Fu Degue wanted to apologize to Li Ying's family. He explained that his crime was mostly motivated by desertion and conflict with his ex-girlfriend. Fu Degue believed that he had to serve his youth in prison just to reintegrate and start a new life. Following his release from prison, he encountered a woman 10 years his senior and made the decision to embark on a fresh start. However, due to unemployment, Fu Degue was fully reliant on the funds of his fiancée, resulting in several disagreements. She eventually broke up and left, leaving Fu Degue feeling as if the entire world had turned its back on him. When he went to the market one morning, he ran into Li Ying and got into an argument. He related this to his ex-girlfriend's constant scolding over his incompetency and unemployment. In a moment of rage, he murdered Li Ying and later thought that he had exacted revenge on his ex-girlfriend. Fu Degue explained in court that he despised women and believed they were to blame for all of his problems. He believed that both his ex-girlfriend and the new woman had deceived and abandoned him, prompting him to commit the crime. Fu Degue was young when he fell in love with a girl in the hamlet and became pregnant as a result. Knowing this, the two moved in together and married, but only a few months after the child was born, the young woman abandoned the infant with Fu Degue's family and fled the village to pursue another man. The villagers later speculated that this woman had previously been in a relationship with another guy. Therefore, the child may not have been Fu Degue's. When Fu Degue heard these rumors, he became enraged and went to the other man's residence, where he stabbed him with a knife, seriously hurting him. Fu Degue received a 20-year prison sentence as a result of his actions. After his release from prison, Fu Degue relied on his elderly parents for financial support and performed odd tasks for whoever hired him. Later, he caught up with his ex-girlfriend and planned to marry her, but they were only able to live together for a brief time before splitting up again. The challenges and critical remarks from his girlfriend reinforced Fu Degue's belief that women were the root of all his problems. This anecdote clearly demonstrates Fu Degue's inclination to blame others, since he always sees himself as the victim and feels that his own faults are the fault of others, particularly women. When presented with a challenge, he consistently attempts to transfer the responsibility to others rather than admitting his own shortcomings. In truth, people like this are simply failures who are constantly looking for ways to excuse themselves. For example, Fu Degue blamed his ex-girlfriend for making him jealous, which drove him to murder. Or, in Li Ying's case, he blamed a heated quarrel with his girlfriend on the value of a pair of gloves. However, the underlying reason for these episodes was Fu Degue's violent personality and incapacity to address problems. Blaming individuals or circumstances may bring momentary respite from pain, but it does not address complex problems. Successful people understand that any failure is partly their fault, and the issue is whether they are willing to accept responsibility, make changes, and improve themselves. We must acknowledge that people often perceive women as having less physical strength than men. As a result, female companions must exercise extreme caution when encountering strangers, particularly in desolate areas where disputes may erupt. Instead of confronting them right away, try to avoid or accept the situation in order to ensure your own safety. If you still need to clarify the situation, You might seek assistance from the police or your loved ones to resolve it later. What are your thoughts about this case? Please leave a comment below so that we can continue the discussion. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to help us. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.